Ladies and gentlemen, we are here live with Rochelle Edwards. This is The Real Marketer, where we simplify social media for real estate agents. And today we are going to be discussing YouTube with a YouTube maestro. So this is going to be a YouTube masterclass. So thank you very much, Rochelle, for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Oliver.
So before we start, I'm going to also link all of her platforms, all of her pages underneath the YouTube channel, most specifically the Genuine Realtor, really phenomenal channel, one I've been following for a long time, even before I started the podcast, just because I liked, Rochelle, I liked your approach. Can you share a little bit about your journey into real estate and more specifically what motivated you to start looking at YouTube as your primary platform to get your name out there?
Yeah, so thanks so much for watching the channel for all these years. I appreciate it. And you've watched me grow, so you'll be able to speak to this from, a audience perspective. Getting into real estate, I was kind of born into real estate. My dad was a broker when I was born, had a big brokerage of about 100 agents in the 90s. So I grew up really watching all of those people work hard and saw firsthand. But I had zero interest in becoming a realtor until after university. So many, many years later. In fact, I told my dad so many times I was not getting into real estate. So look at me now. So growing up in that, you see firsthand how hard you have to work to really service clients well. And YouTube was a really good way for me to kind of leverage into that. And it's funny because I stumbled into YouTube. It wasn't a direct, I'm going to do this. It's a great way to lead prospect. I got into it because when I first started on video, like 2016, Facebook was where everyone was posting their videos. So you're kind of gearing it towards your family, your friends, your local audience of people that already know, like, and trust you. So it wasn't really branching out to find new people. I got, like a decent amount of views on Facebook. And then one day I was listening to, I think it was a podcast, and that presenter had said, YouTube is the future of real estate prospecting. And it really kind of resonated. So that was back about 2018. I actually went back to my original videos to see when I started posting. And I just kind of focused on Facebook and then haphazardly threw them up onto YouTube. Fast forward maybe 8 months, and all of a sudden in 2-week period, I had 4 or 5 leads reach out to me directly, ready to work with me. Yeah.
So can I clarify here, the types of videos that you posted from Facebook to YouTube, that was short form content or long form?
Long form.
So you were creating long form content on Facebook initially?
For Facebook. Yeah. And that was because we were told social media was the way to drive forward, how to become an expert, how to really resonate with your audience. So it just worked, but it wasn't working to the same level that it does with YouTube. So I'm sure we'll cover that more as we go along. But so yeah, those people reached out. And of course you ask your leads that come in, how did you hear about me? YouTube. And I was thinking, what do you mean YouTube? So I went over to my channel. It was atrocious. There were no thumbnails. There was no channel banner. There was nothing. And I'm like, these people are really qualified. So the price point was $750 plus right off the bat. They were educated. They had good jobs. They were using YouTube as a search engine to find out more information about the market. And I was the only one there from my city. So I realized in that 2-week period, that is where I need to focus. So I really carved out a lot of time, added thumbnails in, added a banner, really tried to elevate it. So at least if that's the social presence that those people are seeing, I wanted it to at least reflect my branding, right? So it was less disgraceful.
I just want to ask, you mentioned that they were qualified. Like, I understand why they'd be educated because they're obviously watching a lot of videos, so they're educating themselves, as opposed to a regular Facebook lead is somebody that you've reached out to. But qualified, why do you think it is that a lot of these people were more qualified to either afford or for listing their homes?
Honestly, I do believe it's because these are the people that are go-getters. They are going out of their way to be educated before they even reach out. So if they saw in one of my first videos talking about why mortgage approvals are so important and some of the documentation you need to bring, they would register, okay, in order for us to get to the destination of home ownership, we need to do X, Y, and Z. They were self-starters, just highly educated human beings. And so they came to the table with decent paying jobs or high paying jobs to start with. And then on top of that, they were organized enough to already have some of those preliminary steps done because I told them to in a video. It was mind blowing, to be honest. It was a really big awakening on the potential of building those relationships over time. And you don't even know that someone's watching and trusting you because they've been watching for 5 months before they even reach out. So it's kind of an interesting perspective that way. Sorry.
No, it's as you're just taking a drink there. It's yesterday someone said to me, it was the greatest compliment, and you'll appreciate this. She said, well, I actually thought you were part of KW because there's a lot of people in the KW ecosystem and infrastructure that are talking about you. So I've heard about you. So you must be doing something right. And obviously, as a content creator, like I don't know, most people just click on the video, they just watch 30 seconds, whatever, and then they go to the next and whatever. They don't think about it. But for us, it's like our life. You know, for somebody to be like, hey, good stuff. We're like, really?
It has been worth the struggle all along. It's so worth it when someone does that.
Oh, it's incredible.
I remember it was Valentine's Day, probably 2019, and I got recognized for the first time in public. I was at the Keg with Ryan for lunch and dinner or whatever it was. And someone came up and like, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but are you the genuine realtor? I just remember turning so red. I was like, what is happening right now? But it's the coolest thing. And then even when these clients meet you for the first time, they see you as a celebrity because they've been watching you and you just feel like a complete stranger to them. But no, they already like you. They already want to work with you. So it's a really, really cool thing that way. But yeah, that's kind of why I got into YouTube in the first place. Was I've happened upon it, but quickly realized the power behind it. So went all in. I basically put all the cards into that deck.
So I want to go back to the beginning, right? So initially, maybe you had a different experience than a lot of other people do because you started in 2018, you mentioned. And out of the gate, even though maybe you didn't have 1 million views right out of the gate, you had 5 leads. So it was pretty quickly apparent to you that this is working. However, from a view perspective, from a metrics perspective, it probably wasn't the easiest thing always to remain consistent, particularly when views are low. And I find that if hypothetically, let's say an agent can stay consistent for 12 months, they're going to absolutely flip and crush it on YouTube. The challenge is, how do I get to that point and how do I persevere through the bad times? How did you persevere through the bad times, and what do you recommend to people who are struggling with this?
You know what? YouTube is as complicated as we make it, basically. So what I mean by that is this is a platform that takes a focused effort to be successful at, but it's not anything that's it's everyone can do it. They just have to be willing to push through those moments where it's, it can be challenging. So some ways that I go about making sure that I'm staying consistent and really pushing through those slower moments, because trust me, once I focused on YouTube, it was painful. So it's like, it's when you're not paying attention to it and it's just growing. And the reason those leads reached out, it was one video out of, I don't know, the dozens that I had posted just kind of haphazardly. One video was sitting at maybe 7,000 or 8,000 views. And that one video was what was drawing those leads in. So all it takes is one good one to start the ball rolling, but you don't know what one that's going to be. So the way I stayed consistent and really, worked through the challenges was looking at YouTube as my prospecting. It's not 10 hours of recording, editing, and creating. It's 10 hours of prospecting of, instead of door knocking or cold calling, which I would not enjoy doing, I got to work those 10 hours on something that I did enjoy. So if you look at it as your lead gen source, I think that's a really good way for realtors, especially to get over that initial lurch of, I only got 4 views. Oh, there's only 10 views this week. Like, what do I have to do? What's happening? Give the algorithm time to breathe and find your ideal audience and use that growth time as a moment to start improving your videos, right? So I think a big part of it is the mental mindset as well. So believe that you will see completely unparalleled success when you find your voice and start creating that quality content that really speaks to your audience. And then only compete with yourself. So especially now when YouTube is such a saturated market for some people in some, in some cities, if you focus on someone else's 4 or 5 years from where you are today, it can be really hard to keep going. So don't compare yourself at all. Focus on what you can control. So every week, try to make your video or whatever you choose, like if it's bi-weekly or monthly, try to make your next video just a little bit better than the last one, and do that, just build over time, get a little bit better. I truly think that if you focus on just improving a little bit, whatever it is, and for me in the beginning, it was super easy to improve. It was like, oh, my lighting was horrible. I should buy a couple of umbrella lights. Oh,
Yes.
my audio's horrible. I need a microphone. Like whatever those little
That's a
improvements
really
are.
important step, because I again, people try to just come out of the gate getting everything perfect,
Right.
and you don't know how to do the most basic thing in the world. So just create something, let it be bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like being bad is like we're gonna try to get rid of it. Like, no, being bad is a necessary part of the process.
You
It has
fail
to be.
forward. You have to be bad in order to get better.
And I also want to say one more thing. Also, just I guess an extension of what you mentioned when you said you're looking at people who are 5 years ahead of you.
Yeah.
So in 2016, I think you meant, 2018, 2016.
2016 is when I started Facebook videos, and then 2018 is when I started posting to YouTube.
So in 2016, when that gentleman said that YouTube is or videos are the future of marketing in real estate,
yeah,
it is still the future. And the reason I said
Totally.
it is because I give presentations, webinars, workshops all the time. And every time, and if you've ever been to my workshops, you know, you've heard me say this, who is currently making videos as consistently as they'd like to be? And nobody raises their hand. And then I ask who would like to be making more videos, and everybody raises their hand. What does that mean? That means that everybody in there is at the same position of you, with their hands in their pockets, wondering, how do I just take the first step? So instead of looking at somebody who figured this out 5 years ago and started out terrible and is now basically figured it out, realize that you are the person that all of those people will be looking at in a year or 2 years from now and be like, well, I'm not that person. But the only difference is that you decided to be okay with making it badly right now. Like, this is what's crazy. We know the power of video because the people who are doing it are swearing by it. We know that it works so well. And we also know that despite the fact that it works so well, and despite the fact that there's a million platforms out there to make videos easy, certainly Sphere Social Media, just going to plug my own platform.
Example, yes.
So there's platforms out there to make your life easier. But the crazy thing is that nobody else in the industry, and I'm talking hyperbolically a little bit right now, but basically nobody in the industry has figured out how to sort this video stuff out. So if you just do it, you're already miles ahead of every person that keeps their hand down when I ask who is not making videos as consistently as they'd like to be, which is like 99% of the industry. Isn't that a crazy thought?
It is. And it's a lot of GCI left on the table, right? Like once you realize how empowering this is for your business, it's hard to imagine. Like I can't even imagine where I'd be right now. I'd probably be door knocking and farming in the neighborhood. And I might even have left the industry, right? Because I didn't find success with those traditional ways because and like my branding says, I'm just genuine. I genuinely don't want to disturb someone. I don't want to call them unsolicited. I don't want to knock on their door because I don't like receiving those things. So how can I in good conscience keep my energy up and like knock, knock, knock. Hi, how's it going? I'm just in the neighborhood. Did it like that for me? I could keep my energy up for 10 houses. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be like, hi, I'm so sorry to bother you by the, like, it's not my vibe. So video, and we can talk about that more too, about the reasons why it's so powerful for lead gen for people like me who, and many others. Like there are so many realtors I talk to who reach out and just say, I love your YouTube channel. How can I do something similar? And we kind of get into a chat about their why. And it's always, I feel really cringy doing the traditional ways because real estate's funny. We're a little bit antiquated. It takes us a really long time to jump forward. So what worked in the 90s that my dad swears by is not effective now. And yet he still does well because he built his business on that. So now he's repeat and referral. I am lucky enough to have repeat and referral, but I also want my business to grow. So because I'm still in that growth phase, the video lead gen is for me the best use of my time. And you know, I'm a mom with 3 little kids. Like I don't have 6 hours a day to go cold call. So I'd way rather go this route. And one of the best things about video is that when I'm not cold calling, it's still working. So even though I'm not currently creating a video, I mean, actually, technically I am right now with you, but it's your video. But all of those people that go to my YouTube channel, they could be watching about whatever interests them right now, even though I'm not focused on it.
Yes.
So it prospects well. I call it passive prospecting. And YouTube is the only prospecting I've ever found that pays me to prospect. So I get that ad rev, even though it's tiny. And in the beginning, I was super excited about it. It was like maybe $50 a month in the beginning, but I saved those $50 a month and would buy a better microphone or reinvest
Yeah.
into like a plugin. So like, it was just the coolest growth when money was tight, because I was with 3 little kids. I was not the sole breadwinner when they were really little. And now it's flipped again, where I'm back to being the sole breadwinner of the household. And it's 100% because of YouTube.
Yeah.
So, and my husband doesn't even do poorly. He does well. It's just, this exceeds it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well, that's literally a snowball. Like that's literally the snowball effect, is that at the beginning, this is what's crazy about prospecting, like cold calling and stuff, is it doesn't snowball. Like you just have to keep on making the quote unquote snowballs every single day. And I think, and not that I'm knocking it at all. I have nothing but admiration for people who can spend hours a day.
People get so much success from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for
and
some people.
I'm not built like that personally. Like I shouldn't say I'm not built, because I could do it if I really had the determination or whatever. I just can't justify between how much I don't like it and also the return on investment. It just doesn't really make so much sense to me. There's other more profitable ways of doing it. But the thing about this is you build the first snowball and then you just keep on like adding to it, and it's painful. And then all of a sudden it gets so big and it has its own momentum that the snowball starts building itself based on, in this case, the ad revenue, which pays for your microphone. And then you get a little bit better, and then you get more, and then you can start to do this, and then this person, and it just grows exponentially. And that's what I think is wonderful. And I want to get back into that, into YouTube as a lead generation tool in just a moment. But before we do, practically speaking, there's likely a lot of people listening to this who are going, okay, great, another podcast of people telling me the value of YouTube and how important it is. Yes. And it makes me feel a little bit more lonely and more like I'm inside of a hole that I can't get out of, because I already know that this stuff works. The question is, what the flip am I supposed to do about it? How do I get started? What do I talk about? Do I need different equipment? So what would you say to that absolute amateur at videos who feels like they're in a hole that they don't know how to get out of?
Yeah. So, I mean, and this goes for new or seasoned YouTubers who maybe have a stagnant growth right now. They're not seeing what they were really hoping for. But it's, for me, the views don't matter. The things that I'm tracking are GCI from YouTube, so how many leads are actually coming in and closing. And then the really big analytic that YouTube offers that I focus on is the watch time. So if you're seasoned and you have, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 videos up on your channel and you're not seeing those leads coming in, stop focusing on the views. You can pay for an ad and get a bunch of views to come in. The only time I focus on views is when it comes to listing videos. And that's only because my sellers want to know that there's lots of views. For them, it is a vanity metric that matters because they don't know any better and they can't see the analytics in the background. So barring those listing videos where I do care, everything else, it's watch time. So if you go to your videos or you're new, shorten them down. Start at 5 minutes, because everyone comes to YouTube thinking, I have to do this 10-minute video. Well, the average human being talking by themselves to a camera for 10 minutes is going to repeat themselves, be super boring, not like fill it with a lot of fluff, filler words that, you know, aren't actually driving the story forward and building that trust. And then they're going to click off and leave. So you have to really dial in at a shorter length video before you try to grow. So I always recommend to people that reach out trying to start at 5 minutes. When you see your watch time hit 50, 60%, then you can add some time in. If you don't have 1,000 viewers or 1,000 subscribers and the appropriate amount of watch time to be to get your ad rev coming in, maybe jump it up to 7 minutes. If you are monetized and you can collect that ad rev, then try to push it to 8 minutes just so you get that mid B-roll ad that YouTube will throw in for you. But again, don't go straight to 10. Really do it incrementally until you get your watch time up. Because if you can't keep people on your video for, you know, the majority of it, then the algorithm's just going to shove your video down. It's pretty cool how it sends it out. So you launch, and for that first kind of hour, 2 hours, it's going to send it out to as many of your followers that are online as possible. And then it's going to judge based on that. Did that hit? Is it resonating? Are people interested in it? Are they commenting? Are they liking? And then if you're not seeing that kind of engagement, the algorithm's going to just kind of like tamper it back down and say, okay, not worth pushing out. But if in that first kind of couple of hours, the algorithm's like, awesome, this is getting some movement and momentum. It's going to shove it out to a whole new group of audience. And then they're going to watch it again. And if don't quote me on the times, it could be 24 hours, it could be 16 hours, whatever it is, it'll watch it again. And if those people were engaged, it'll keep snowballing, right? So the algorithm will snowball for you too, but you have to watch that watch time in order to get there.
Yeah.
And then make it simple for yourself. So as a newcomer, and Oliver, I so appreciate your Sphere social media, because it does help me with my short form video, because I'm so focused on long form. Short form falls to the wayside for me. So one of the things I started doing recently, which has been a game changer, and I wish I had known about it years ago, is I am now, while I'm filming, so say this is me filming, I'm here, I've finished up my whole thing, then I'm going to change to vertical. So it's not horizontal anymore. We've got to switch it to vertical. And then I'm just going to do a quick promo and say like, hey, are you curious about XYZ in Burlington and why this has been going on? I know it can feel scary, but I just finished a YouTube video all about XYZ, how it can help you. These are my takes, Fill it with some really captivating B-roll, and then you're done. So you're no longer trying to piece together audio clips from a 10-minute long video. You've got it concise, it's hitting all the points, and then you're driving traffic from your socials to your YouTube. So that little hack, honest to goodness, saved me probably 2 hours of effort in terms of trying to figure out how to promote my YouTube video on socials, because well, in the beginning, I used to just post my long form to Instagram and Facebook. Now YouTube is the top of my lead gen hierarchy. So YouTube is the focus and everything else tries to push towards it. And the reason for that is unparalleled SEO comes from YouTube. So because YouTube is a search engine, because Google is the top visited search engine in the world by like an astronomical spread, those two.
Is it more so than Google?
Pardon?
More so than
no,
Google?
Google's the top, but Google owns YouTube.
Oh, I
right?
see.
So for me, ranking well in a Google search result, having a YouTube channel linked to my website, where every video I make, there's a blog post with the video embedded. The full script gets turned into a blog post by my admin. She just takes care of that side of it for me. So by doing that, though, I rank in Google higher than everyone else, and I get a lot of people reaching out from Google because it's the craziest way it all works together. I don't know. I'm a work smart, not hard kind of person. So being able to have a video that's bringing me direct leads, like in the moment, like dozens of six figures over those years in GCI. So like already it makes sense to do it without all of the other perks. But then you add in your Google ranking, your just staying in front of people that may not have ever met you before. Yeah. They're finding you via search. I don't know, getting paid to prospect. It prospects while I sleep, like all those things. I think
that the challenge is with a lot of people who are making YouTube videos, particularly at the beginning, and this is really the case for any social media platform, is they do what I call post and pray. So they post and then they just pray to goodness that it's going to do well. Where it's like, okay, well, first off, let's assume hypothetically that your video is a really, really good video, the hook is on point and everything else is still there. There's still an element of like, okay, let's hope for the best now. And you're always going to be to some capacity at the mercy of the algorithm. And what I really mean when I say that is you're at the mercy of your video being a good video that the algorithm will then reward you. So just in case it sounds like I'm blaming the algorithm for your lack of views or for anyone's lack of views, I'm not. But at the end of the day, you have to learn what the algorithm wants. Not initially at the beginning, you shouldn't be worrying about that. Actually, I don't think you should ever really be worrying about that. You should just be worrying about making good content, let the algorithm do its thing. However, let's say you have a massive following on Instagram or on TikTok and you have very little following on YouTube. By doing what you've just done, I made a YouTube video. Like, I don't know if YouTube and Instagram are necessarily, I'm sure they talk to each other. They're not in bed with each other, really. So the fact that you have a massive following on Instagram, YouTube doesn't really care about that so much. I'm sure that they do for their SEO and everything, but it's not like, oh, this person's got 100,000 followers on Instagram. Quick, let's get this video in front of 1 million people. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. However, you go back to Instagram, as you mentioned, and you make that quick promo. Now, all of a sudden, you've got all 100,000 followers plus all of your non-followers being like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And then they go to YouTube, and YouTube very quickly learns, okay, this person's got some pretty cool stuff to talk about. And as a side point also, I want to say is that I used to kind of be against talking about trends. I don't really know why I ever had a thing against it. Probably because I was some kind of purist and was like, I'm not following on in like I'm not just jumping on every bandwagon that the world sets in front of me. Like, I'm going to blaze my own trail. I have since removed my ego from that equation and realized that if there's a trend, flip and talk about it. Like, it doesn't matter. And also title your video everything you need to know about trend.
The trend. Yes.
Everything you need to know about ChatGPT for realtors. Everything you need to know about the newest update in this, like whatever it is. So if ever you're worrying about like what content you should talk about, go to, if you're a real estate coach, go to Inman and look at the top headlines, because they're on point and they're always obviously talking about what's relevant. If you're a real estate agent that deals in residential in a certain city, go to whatever newspapers are dominating that city, see what's happening from a housing perspective, from a market perspective, and talk about all of those things. So find what's trending, talk about those. Also, I gave a couple of workshops on how to find perfect content to like Answer the Public. Write that down, guys, if you're listening to this.
I love that.
AnswerThePublic.com.
Yeah, it's so great.
Also, Facebook groups. Also, when you type in a question into Google, it will say people also ask. So like all of these different things are ideas for you to talk about. So find those ideas. Just create a very basic video at the beginning. Like Rochelle said, post it, then post a quick promo about it. Make it short, sweet, to the point, 5 minutes or less. Don't overcomplicate it. Just post it. Don't worry about audio quality first. If after, like, here's the thing, you post it, you share it, and then you're listening to it and you're like, oh, that's not such great audio quality. You know what I need? A mic. That's better.
That's the first thing that you, like, people will watch bad video way longer than they will listen to bad audio. So if your audio is garbage, that's the first, like, I would way rather someone use a window for their lighting, but have a mic than,
absolutely.
It makes a big difference.
Let me clarify. What I meant by that is, hypothetically, well, Rochelle, I'll actually ask you. If I asked you, let's say I'm in school and I said, Rochelle, I have to write an essay on real estate. Could you write it for me? You're going to be like, no. But if I said,
yes. Will I? No.
But if I said, Rochelle, I have to write an essay on real estate. I just wrote it. Can you take a look at it for me? What do you think? And then help me with some edits. It's much easier to edit something. And the reason I say that is because if you're making a video and out of the gate, you're like, everything has to be absolutely perfect. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. It's like, no. Or let's just do it and then quote unquote edit the product. In other words, the first edit is, ooh, I'm going to edit this by getting a better microphone for the next video. Then you post it and you go, I'm going to edit this by changing the lighting. So edit along the way. Don't try to create a final product in the first go.
I like to tell people to be ruthless with their editing. I know it sounds so, and I like where we're at in the conversation, which is why I'm throwing this in. And it's not about being ruthless with self-criticism. It's not about criticizing yourself. We are so horrible at posting something, and then I probably watch every one of my videos more than anyone else, because I'll find myself rewatching it over and over again and nitpicking things about it that I don't like. So even at this point, having done hundreds of videos, I still am critical of my own content. But when I say be ruthless with your editing, it's put on your avatar's goggles, right? Like, I like to think about my ideal audience when I'm editing and cut out anything that is not serving with value to that specific audience, is not concise and to the point. If there's any filler, cut it, because it's not going to help you with that watch time. And if we can go back a little bit to what you were saying earlier about the trends, I was with you for years. I would avoid trends because I wanted my YouTube content to be evergreen. I wanted it to be watchable 5 years from now, because I put so much time and effort into it. But what I've learned as I've done this for a few years, if you do the trending things, you draw this whole new audience of people to your channel who may subscribe. And then when that trending piece is done and it's no longer, serving your audience anything interesting or of value, it doesn't go away. It just sits there. But all of those people are now seeing your weekly updates or however often you're posting. So following those trends is actually a great way to branch out and build a more diverse audience of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more questions before we get into that rapid fire. And I mentioned to you that the rapid fire, none of those questions that beforehand. So some of them are easy, some of them are not as easy. But before we get there, so you've got agents who are listening to this and it's like, okay, but I still don't really know exactly, like, I've got some things right now, but I still don't know exactly what to do to get started, which tools to use. So down to basics, what tools or technologies are you relying on for creating your YouTube videos, managing your content, all of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, in the beginning, you probably are going to have more time than money. So you're going to probably spend more of it yourself kind of plugging away at things. If you have money, then the tool would be finding an editor, outsourcing some of that more challenging stuff. I do recommend to people that they learn the basics of editing so they can communicate with the editor what they want. So maybe do your first 5 videos yourself and then outsource if you've got the funds. But for me, I actually really enjoy editing. So it's kind of one of the things that I have been holding on to, even though it's not great for my time use. But so right now I edit my videos with Final Cut Pro, which is a really robust editing software for Mac products. But you don't need to go that big to start, right? I started off multiple 6 figures in GCI. It was made with iMovie, which is the most basic editing software. It's free on a Mac product. I think, there's a version for Windows. I can't remember what it's called, but like basic free, barely do anything. And yet I still managed to crush my goals over and over and over again in terms of what I had set out to earn that year. So don't let the thought of I need to learn this big, massive software stop you. Start basic and then build up over time as you get better and you want to bring in those other elements. And then I have for Final Cut Pro, it comes with a lot of standard stuff, but I personally like to buy plugins. So these are add-on software pieces that really help drive and create my brand in my videos. So those I've bought over time. I mean, I've spent more money than I should have on them. Some of them I do use, some of them I buy and I never use. So if anyone would like a list, if you reach out to Oliver, I'm more than happy to give some of my favorites. And then I use AI. So there's some AI plugins that really just make my editing flow expedited to a ridiculous level. So the big one for me is my audio. I used to have to hand adjust and really go in with like my filters and stuff to take out the echo, or if there was a lot of traffic in the background, all of that stuff. I now drag and drop the AI plugin and it does it instantly.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
It's crazy, but awesome. And I can still fine tune it, but it blows my mind. And then so same thing, Chat GPT. I don't use it to write my scripts, but I use it to brainstorm. So I know what I know. I've been doing this longer than I care to admit. I started when I was 3. No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those, sometimes we forget, right? We live in our city, we live in our area, we serve whatever we're trying to do. If you're trying to build a team or whatever with your YouTube channel, we just live and breathe it all day long. So sometimes we forget to go kind of bird's eye and think, all right, what are the things that I'm missing in this video? So ChatGPT for kind of brainstorming, making sure I'm hitting all of those key points, never not elaborating, always, add your own spin. But then I also get them to do my video descriptions, right? Like I hate writing a video description. So I literally paste the entire script and say, create a YouTube, create a YouTube video description for this. And then it pops it out. I still, again, fine tune, add my chapters, but overall it's saved me a lot of time. So that I like. Notability is an app on my iPad that I use for jotting down ideas, really keeping myself organized when I'm doing my videos, because the way I make my videos compelling and authentic and builds trust at a higher rate than others is my B-roll. So A-roll is your on-screen, just you talking. B-roll is when you've got, a drone shot of the city or a close-up of a front door, whatever it happens to be. My goal in storytelling is for me to not be the protagonist. I am the guide and I am the advisor. So I want to be on screen as little as possible. And that kind of goes against the ego that a lot of people bring when they come to video, is they need to get to know me. They need to see me.
Yes.
Well, they do see me. They also hear my voice telling the story that this B-roll is really conveying, but I'm still back there building trust, but they're not staring at me. So it actually keeps them longer. My watch time is incredible compared to others because that B-roll keeps everyone kind of engaged. So the big thing about the B-roll is keeping it organized. So I have external hard drives where I have everything labeled. So if I'm editing, there was a time when it took forever. So again, streamlining those systems, but now I just plug in the external hard drive and type in, I don't know, Lake Ontario. And then it'll pull up any shot that I've ever taken and uploaded that has Lake Ontario in it. And then I can pick, right, the one that fits what I'm talking about. So really using kind of
You can also
organizational
use like
skills.
Google Photos as well, because it's all geotagged as well.
Yes.
So it'll know where it
Yes.
is. And let me also preface again, I don't want to say Rochelle's a finished product with YouTube, because obviously there's always room to improve, but Rochelle
Always
is
room
a
to
much
improve.
more refined version than maybe Rochelle was at the beginning. So if everyone listening to this is like, oh, I got to take my own B-roll and stuff, like
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing that I would say softwares like Veed.io, and I'm sure CapCut has it as well. They're very simple. They have stock B-roll footage. And I know Rochelle hates the stock B-roll footage. I don't love it, but
better than nothing.
If that's what's going to be the difference, if you're starting or not starting, is I got to do my own B-roll, use stock footage to start. You don't even use stock footage of people, use stock footage of places. That actually probably is a lot better, because I think if you're using stock footage of like professional businessmen in suits, like doing the slow motion handshake, as we all see, like it's a little bit cringe.
Yes.
It's so cringe, because that's like the classic one, and we've probably seen the same stock footage in about 1 million videos. So do stock footage of, I don't know, a lake if you're talking about a lake, or a palm tree if you're talking about Florida. That kind of stuff is very, very forgivable.
And just make sure when you say palm tree, I've seen people in Ontario make videos about, whatever, and the stock footage they chose has palm trees in it. Like, we don't have those. So
winter in Ontario, and it shows like Hollywood Boulevard.
So just really make sure it's authentic, so that your audience, because they know, like, they're researching, they know if that's like, wait, what? When did we get palm trees there? So I agree, if it's going to be the difference between doing it and not, but when you're looking at those things you can do and improve on as you get better.
Yes.
Stock footage is a huge one. My gimbal is like less than $200. I've replaced it recently because I wanted the selfie stick version, so my vertical doesn't look so like tight to my face. But my other one still works perfectly fine. The kids are using it now. So like $200 8 years ago, it just like it's almost pennies for the value it's brought. But also in the beginning, I would go everywhere and collect it. So like I would film myself, and then I would film as I was out on appointments a little bit. So I always have my gimbal with me. Even today, it's our first snowfall, and I'm doing a series on the weather here. So because it's the first snowfall, I've got my gimbal with me this morning, dropping the kids off to school, and I like got out and took a little quick shot. So I've got B-roll of the first snowfall. So if you have it with you and you see something cool, or you've got 5 minutes between appointments, spend that 5 minutes just grabbing a couple of shots, and then let it snowball over time. And I will say too, with the Google photo, my original method was mentally I can remember where I film things. So I would go to my maps and zoom into that area to get, oh, there's the clip of the Lake Ontario from the park that I'm thinking of. Downside is I ran out of space. I pay for like the largest iCloud space possible, and I ran out. So I'm not willing to delete the B-roll that I have collected because it's so valuable. So then I had to go the other route and go that way. So that's why but I do agree it's cool. And then the other app that I love for on the go editing, I know CapCut is super popular. I do use it for the captions, but I don't find it my favorite to work with in terms of just straight up editing. So what I use and have used for years is InShot. So InShot. It is incredibly powerful for a handheld editing app. I can do almost everything I can do on Final Cut Pro with InShot, and to the point of like I can blur out. So I'm because I'm a board of director, a lot of times when I'm showing my day and there's my iPad's there, I have to blur it out for privacy reasons or non-disclosure reasons. So it's just really cool that you have a little app in your phone for, I think it's like $12 a year, and it does everything that I would need it, like, so I don't have to pull up my laptop. That's awesome. My other favorite. Mm-hmm.
So one final question before we get to that dreaded rapid fire. How do you think that social media, as it evolves, particularly as it pertains to video content, is changing the real estate industry, and how do you think it will continue to shape the real estate industry?
If done well, it really builds trust with consumers. Realtors right now have a really bad reputation, and we're kind of seen as sleazy car salesman-y, which is unfair to car salesmen too, because there's some great ones out there. But it's all about showing the truth and being somewhat humble with what you're doing. We've all seen the shots of, a realtor that just sold got a decent sized commission, and they go and rent a luxury vehicle like a Lamborghini, and then there are shots of them driving around town. Like, that's not your true lifestyle. And the people that are at that lifestyle are going to spot you a mile away. So
Alex Hormozy just had a clip on this. It's like when you do that, the only person you're impressing are people who aren't players, because the real hustlers know that. And it's like, I'll have conversations with people and it's like, money's so tight at the moment. And then I see a social media video pop up, them driving like a Lambo in slow motion, and goes, all I do is win, 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 no matter what. And it's like, oh God, go back to
it's
work.
Cringe. That to me is more cringe than anything. So, and it also is a complete disservice. So all it does is tell the public we're overpaid, which we are paid well, but we are not overpaid. We work incredibly hard. It also tells them that it's easy. So if you wonder why we had so many people getting their license during COVID, it just looked so easy. Like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, look, they're driving a Lambo and they've been doing this for a year and a half. Like, this is awesome. I'm going to be rolling in the money. This is also why we have one of the highest turnover rates as an industry. So most people don't make it 2 years, because it's really hard work. And yet that's not what we're portraying out there. And I'm not saying it has to be hard forever. You do the hard work in the beginning so that you can build systems and build teams and find a way to get the balance that you're looking for in life and get to enjoy things. But you don't get there without the grind first. And I have an issue with like people posting the only things that they're posting on their socials are the flamboyant showboaty things, when in reality we should be showing, like, I will show if I'm working on like 5 CMAs, I've got it. My desk is a disaster. It's a work in progress, but I'm showing people like, listen, I work from the coffee shop, but look what I'm working on. Like, this is hard work, hours on end. I don't get time off necessarily. Like I carve time out, but it's just, it gives the wrong impression to the public. But so when it's done well, it really is beneficial in terms of building trust and rapport with the public. So, and I like this aspect of it. So I get clients right now reaching out from social. So, I mean, I do get leads from socials and not YouTube. The leads coming from socials are people that have realtors doing the flamboyant showboaty stuff. And they're saying, I think my realtor is too busy for me and I want something different. Or I appreciated that you taught me XYZ and I would like you to represent me. So because I'm leading with value, they trust me. They don't necessarily trust their realtor that took their $20,000 commission and bought a Lambo, which they didn't, but that's the perception they're putting out. So,
well, I think they'd appreciate it less if they knew that they took the $20,000 commission and rented a Lambo.
Rented it, I know, right? Like for my socials. So, and I mean, we're all guilty of it. Like but I think about a lot of things. So like, we went to Disney World and I took the kids, and I know that there's a lot of people struggling. So I didn't go about posting nonstop about my trip to Disney because I didn't want to make other people feel like, I worked with you this year and I paid for your vacation. That's not what it was about. So you really do have to be aware of how you use your socials. And if you really want to post that stuff, make a separate private, like just for your family or just for your close friends, or on Facebook, make a subgroup, right? Where you only show it to your closest people, because otherwise if someone's just clicking onto your profile and they're a stranger, it doesn't come across as for me, genuine, or like I need the work and that I'm going to work hard for you. It looks like I've already made it and
for sure
I'm just floating on my laurels. So, as they say. So I like social media as well for networking, and not with just the public at large, but with other realtors. So if I have a client who's looking, let's say, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, I'm going to go onto social media and investigate anyone that has put their name forward or has been mentioned to me, or if I'm just doing my own research, finding someone. If I go to your socials and you're posting fluff that's not helpful, or the worst is when you're speaking about past clients in a derogatory, or you're frustrated with something that happened, I'm not going to send my clients to you. If I go to your channel and you're adding value and you're speaking about data and the stats on the market or changes in legislation that's coming down, I know you care about your clients. I know you care about the market, and I know you're out there educating yourself and then sharing it with others. I am far more likely to give you my referral. And because most of my stuff comes from YouTube, those referrals are generally above $1 million. So like, do you want to lose $1 million commission for the vanity metrics of like, check out my sweet Rolex? So like, that's just,
so it allows you to kind of communicate more authentically. And I guess it also like recognizing that the cameras are always on, meaning I guess you're the one really turning on the camera, but don't think that like I'm going to post. And it's like, it's on the one hand, the fact that everyone's going to see it means, okay, so with great power comes great responsibility. Be careful about what you post. But on the other hand, it's like, well, everyone's going to see it. So why don't you just be an awesome person doing dope shit and just do it in front of a camera, and then everyone sees that, and really awesome stuff. Not like, again, renting a Lambo, but like helping
Actually
people
doing
and
something.
going in the community and adding value. And that's not to say also, again, don't show your own life. Like, I think that there's a lot of people would have a very valid claim, although I understand the way you framed it right now. But I think people will be like, a lot of people might say, well, if you're going to Disneyland, people want to see that and they want to kind of get to know you. And I think that that's a very valid thing to say. On the other hand, I also see the perspective that you took, and it makes sense the way that you framed it. But the point is that it's a camera that you can let people peek inside to see the real you, whatever that is.
Exactly.
You know?
And people want
you
to see you as a
decide to
human,
Yeah.
right? They want to see the human side of you. So it is important to share that stuff. So I should reiterate, I did create a reel. So there is a Disney reel that got shared, and my kids are always impressed because that's their favorite reel to watch. I mean, go figure, they want to relive their Disney experience over and over, but they look at the hearts and they're like, oh, mom, you got whatever amount of heart. Like, so many people love this.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop focusing on that. Did you have fun? So like, even the kids, I'm trying to keep them focused on the important things. But
even like,
and the other thing too is there are some people that do drive Lambos and do take private jets, and that is their lifestyle. I'm not saying to those people don't post it. Just don't try to sell a lifestyle that isn't yours because you're trying to attract that client. Go at them with honesty and transparency and say, listen, I am new to your lifestyle, but I love it. I live and breathe the selling sunsets or whatever, and I want to break into this market. You will never find another realtor who's going to work harder than me. Totally different perspective than trying to go and be like, check out my Lambo, and they're like, well, I can see the rental paperwork on the passenger seat, right? Like, live your authentic self and be honest and vulnerable with those people, because most of them did not start off driving Lambos in life. They also worked to get there. So yeah, that would be my.
Well, I'm coming from the same point as you. We had a conversation about this like a couple of days ago, where two people who seem like they're disagreeing when really they're coming from a different premise. It's not really a disagreement. So my premise, quote unquote, is the same as you. So I don't know what world I would ever post a picture of me in a Lamborghini, even if I own a Lamborghini. I don't think I would ever. It's just not my style.
Where are you going to put the kids?
Yeah, I'm honestly like, if I get a minivan, like that's my like, all I did was win. Like that for me is
put
like
new rims on your van and post about it.
Oh,
People
forget about the
that,
rims. Like a brand new, like if I ever get my act together and buy like a super handy functional garbage can for my car, like that's an all I do is win no matter what.
Yes.
But that's my lifestyle. However, I will say that Ryan Serhant, and the first time I saw this, turned me off a lot. But then I reconsidered. Ryan Serhant he bought a fake Rolex when he was starting out because he wanted to sit at different tables. And the first time I heard that, I was like, oh, that's gross. And it is gross a little bit to me. However, he understood his avatar. And for whatever reason, his avatar wanted him to own a Rolex to associate with him. It was a strategic decision. He owned the decision shamelessly by basically fessing up to the fact that he did it and it was fake, and now he's actually a big deal in the global sense. So again, I would never do that in a million years. I think in a trillion years, you would never do that.
No.
However, the point of the social media, kind of just to bring the answer that you gave full circle, is the cameras are on you whenever you decide to turn the cameras on, and you get to put the version of yourself that you want people to see forward whenever you want to. And so if buying a fake Rolex, again, you got to be very, very honest with yourself here, because it's a very thin line between tricking yourself that people want to see it and really all you want to do is convince people that you're killing it in life and really you're not. But if you, through absolute unadulterated self-introspection and emotional intelligence, can ask yourself the question and come to the conclusion that buying a Rolex is the best, fake Rolex is the best thing for your business, again, not my style, not your style, but there's something to be said there to, you got to put whatever foot forward you want to put forward. That you need
to. Yeah. So, and I mean, too, it's hard in situations like that because there's this thing in real estate called, well, and it's in lots of industries, but I call it lifestyle creep. So you are emulating people with Rolexes. You want to be in that sphere, in that room. The cool thing now, and it's very different. I mean, 80s, 90s, 100%, you needed to look like you belonged in order to be there. The cool thing about where the time we're living in now is that I have sold like $2.5 million homes to people that show up in a beat up Honda Civic.
Yeah.
And they just don't care about their car. Or, you know, I'm showing houses and they're in like torn sweats and flip-flops, but yet they're buying a $1.2 million property. So it's really cool now because you don't have to adhere to a specific mold in order to build relationships with people in, you know, places that you want to be. But the lifestyle creep is really challenging, especially for realtors, because we get this big check. And yeah, we know we have to save some of it for the government and pay our taxes and all of that, but a lot of people don't. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, that Louis Vuitton bag that I needed, it'll look good. It'll show that I'm successful. Well, yeah, but you just spent $3,000 on that. And then in 2 months, you can't afford to pay your hydro bill because you didn't pace it out.
Yeah.
So lifestyle creep in real estate is really problematic because people think that you need to have this thing to be accepted as a successful realtor. I'm very privileged that I grew up in the household of a successful realtor. So I got to see that side of it. And my dad is in love with designer brands and things like that. I am not. And I think that is because I grew up watching it and watching how silly it is to me. But I know there are people out there that got into real estate because they want to live that lifestyle. So just my only thing is when you start doing well, don't just automatically assume you're going to do that well the next year. Really,
this too shall pass, right?
Right. Yeah. So really keep your head on your shoulders, stay grounded, stay humble, and know, you know what, if I can repeat this for 3 years, then yeah, I should go, you know, potentially invest in a timeshare on a Lambo.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like just incrementally get there and make sure you're established at where you are and that it's not just a fluke year, right? Where I crushed it. I did so well. I can afford this because I'm just going to make more next year. The reality is you may not. And nothing is worse than having, you know, like during the 90s in Canada, we had a bad recession. And I remember being at the office, at my dad's office, and watching some BMWs get repoed and pulled out of the parking lot. I remember seeing adult human beings crying, and I was maybe 7, 8 years old. And I really didn't understand. I was like, what happened? Like it was really tragic for them. So I think that was also a reason behind why I just don't see the need to be lavish and display those things in order to feel confident in myself and in my, I don't know, my choices in life. But I totally understand why people feel that way. Just be smart with yourself and really don't let that lifestyle creep get the better of you.
Okay, so we've got about 2.5 minutes left. So we're gonna go for the rapid fire. Okay, some of these are gimmies, some of them are not so much. You ready? I want quick answers. I want the first one that comes into your head. Okay, I'm gonna make it nice and easy for you at the start. Are you a coffee person or a tea person?
Coffee.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Both, which is really bad.
You're just in a constant state of positivity.
Yeah, I like evenings because I get my most creativity and I get the most kind of stuff done. But having 3 little kids that were all 5 a.m. wakers, I've been a member of the 5 a.m. club for over a decade, and I hate it, but I do it. Yeah.
So what's your favorite city that you've sold a property in?
Burlington is my favorite. I mean, it's so hard all over. I love everywhere, but like I love Dundas a lot. I love Burlington the most, and there's parts of Oakville I love. That's kind of my spectrum that I serve, and I also like Grimsby. So I'm an unfair person to ask because I explore all of the neighborhoods and there's something to love about every single one of them. But if I had to pick where I will settle for the rest of my life, hands down, I absolutely love Burlington.
What's one word that you would use to describe your first YouTube video? Only one word.
Oh, cringe.
Cringe.
Dark. It was very dark. It was right here. It was, young. And I look so young. Not a wrinkle on my face, just a little baby.
Cringe. I like that. Okay, what is virtual tours or open houses?
Virtual tours, but I'm not prospecting at open houses. If I needed it as a lead gen pillar, 100% open houses. I'm again super happy to do a really detailed video tour. In fact, I had a listing that almost didn't sell, and that was how I got it sold. Was I did a 17-minute walkthrough room by room, really describing everything, posted it on the MLS with the listing, and it sold a couple of weeks later and got 28,000 views. So, yeah, and it works while I'm not working. People get their answers.
Yeah, there you go.
From the video. Yeah.
What is one gadget that you can't live without?
My gimbal.
I actually knew you were going to say that because we've had these conversations before. As soon as I wrote this, I was like, it's going to be the gimbal.
Gimbal.
What
100%.
is a other than the Real Marketer podcast? What is a book or a podcast recommendation that you'd give for real estate agents?
Oh my goodness, there's so many good ones. I am a audio junkie, so because I walk every day. But my tops would be if you're a female or feel like you are on the same wavelength as the way female realtors would approach things. Hustle Humbly podcast. The girls out of, I want to say they're in North Carolina, South Carolina. But anyways, incredible, very knowledgeable, and they're very much like me, very genuine, deeply care about their clients and are educated. So that one. I also really like Agent Rise with Neil Mathwig. I think he was on your show not that long ago too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, Neil is just a wealth, and he has been through so many markets that he really knows, and he also has trained lots of realtors how to get through these markets. So I really enjoy his podcast. And then the other one is Massive Agent Society. I really enjoy Dustin's.
Trying to get Dustin on the show. So Dustin, if you're listening to this, bro, come on the show, man.
Do it up. Yeah, those are kind of my top three. But if you're in Canada, Level Up podcast, Level Up, with the On the Block Realty team. They're based out of Toronto. Generally, I really enjoy their contributions to the podcast sphere as well.
Okay, what are you the most scared of?
Oh God, if I'm being completely honest, dying. Like, for real. But I think it's more dying before I've had the chance to do all the things I want to do.
Yeah.
So it's not really death itself. It's
unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, leaving my kids too young or leaving things unfinished. So that just means I have to live each day to the fullest and try to maximize it.
Absolutely. I love that. And finally, what is one thing that you'd like to be remembered by? Speaking about death.
Honestly, I want to be remembered for really caring about all people. I'm very lucky that I grew up in a household where we were privileged enough to be able to speak our minds and not be reprimanded for it. So I want everyone to feel seen and heard and appreciated for who they are. I want to be remembered for contributions to organized real estate. So as someone who has been a director of the Realtors Association of Hamilton Burlington, I'm now a director of the new amalgamated group, the Cornerstone Association of Realtors. If you're in Ontario, please consider joining one of the brokerages that are a part of Cornerstone going forward. We are very membership forward focused governance. And really, God, I would love if I could finish my career off and having been a part of helping amalgamate the data. So we have a really big problem where I work locally where you can't get all the data in one place. Clients actually have more access to robust data than the realtors do, and it's very problematic for organized real estate. I would love if I went down in history as someone who helped solidify the two camps that are really kind of keeping their data separate.
Okay, I was about to say we got to make sure that we're coming back to the original questions of rapid fire, but I think you tied it nicely with the bow at the end there.
Boom.
All right, Rochelle, before we let you go, first off, thank you so much for coming on to the show. We really appreciate all of the wisdom that you've shared with us. How can people find you? Again, we'll link it below, but how can people find you?
I am at The Genuine Realtor on everything, even YouTube. So if you did youtube.com/The Genuine Realtor or Instagram.com/The Genuine Realtor, you're going to find me. Instagram and YouTube are my main places. I do try to branch out into TikTok. Facebook, I'm working on getting more involved in, but it's a grind for me. I go to Facebook for the groups and for learning, not so much for posting. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at. And you can always email me hello@genuinerealtor.com if you have any questions directly that you'd like to reach out with.